Welcome to News Mongolia, where we bring you the latest stories and updates from across the nation and beyond. I am Batsirin Namshar. For our top stories, Kazakhstan's President Tokayev to pay a state visit to Mongolia. Mongolian entrepreneurs' wool sock production is thriving in the Czech Republic. The second forum on civil society leadership to end tuberculosis in Mongolia held. For the news, stay tuned. At the invitation of President Hursukhna, President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev of Kazakhstan is arriving in Mongolia today for a two-day state visit. This marks the first state visit by a Kazakh head of state in 16 years.
During the visit, the two leaders will engage in official talks to review the progress made over the past 30 years of diplomatic relations. Discussions will focus on strengthening traditional friendly ties, enriching cooperation with economic initiatives, and enhancing regional and international partnerships. The visit will also include the signing of agreements to solidify the legal framework for bilateral relations. Sectors such as transport, logistics, agriculture, veterinary medicine, information technology, culture, and tourism will benefit from the new cooperation protocols. Mongolia and Kazakhstan formally established diplomatic relations on January 22, 1992. This visit symbolized a shared commitment to strengthening collaboration and expanding cooperation.
A Mongolian entrepreneur living in the Czech Republic for the past 18 years has found success with a factory producing high-quality wool socks. The idea for the business originated during the COVID-19 pandemic when Ochursukh was manufacturing face masks to meet local demand. It was a meaningful Christmas gesture that planted the seed for a new venture.
During the holiday season, Ochursukh donated warm socks to an elder care home and saw firsthand how much warmth and comfort meant to the residents. Reflecting on the Czech Republic's chilly, humid winters, he realized the demand for a natural solution for keeping feet warm and dry in damp conditions.
We wash, naturally dye, and iron our socks in 6 different colors and designs. Our collection includes long, short, and ankle-length socks. Sheep's wool is the perfect material. It provides warmth and wicks away moisture, ensuring comfort throughout the season.
With his factory now fully operational, Ochursukh hopes to meet local demand for sustainable, eco-friendly products. The venture not only promotes the use of wool, but also reflects the fusion of Mongolian tradition and European needs. He spent 4 years conducting market research before opening the factory. His efforts highlight the value of environmentally conscious consumption and introducing Mongolian craftsmanship to a wider audience. By using sheep's wool, a natural resource familiar to both regions, Ochursukh has created a product that bridges tradition and modern consumer needs, proving that innovative ideas can emerge from even the most challenging times.
The second forum on civil society leadership in ending tuberculosis in Mongolia was held under the theme Community Engagement, Human Rights and Gender, addressing the country's high burden and efforts to combat the disease.
In 2022, tuberculosis saw a resurgence globally, with 10.6 million new cases and 1.3 million deaths, making it the second deadliest infectious disease after COVID-19. Mongolia, one of 7 high-burden Western Pacific countries for TB and multi-drug-resistant TB, reported 2,357 cases in 2023, though many remain undiagnosed. Financial hardships also impact 70% of families affected by the disease.
So Mongolia is one of the high-burden countries, not only with the TB and with the multi-drug resistant TB, and with the long treatment and also the financial burden, it is difficult to overcome this challenge. And for us, Mongolian Anti-TB Coalition, we mainly focused in research, advocacy, community engagement, and capacity building for healthcare workers. And I think that our main focus areas are the main thing to overcome the barriers. For example, in 2022, we implemented the TB stigma assessment in Mongolia with the Human Rights Committee of Mongolia, and the result shows shocking result. We have the high rate of the TB stigma in Mongolia, and also that people there is a perceived stigma among the healthcare workers, healthcare facilities, and people are stigmatizing themselves because of TB, because they thought it is like poor people's illness or something like that. But truly, the TB can affect everybody. The 2/3 of the population has TB, and the other main challenge for Mongolia is that the low detection rate. On the estimation, we should detect like 14,000 people, but we only detect 21% of that population in 2023.
A 2022 national stigma assessment revealed widespread discrimination against TB patients in healthcare settings, which creates significant barriers to timely diagnosis and treatment. Families of TB patients also experience community stigma, making the fight against TB even more challenging. In response, the Mongolian Anti-TB Coalition, in partnership with the Ministry of Health's Tuberculosis Research Professional Council, is hosting the forum ahead of the 100th anniversary of Mongolia's TB fight. Key discussions focus on human rights and health, gender equality in TB, and efforts to reduce stigma. Notable participants include members of Parliament Saranchulong and Ganma, alongside representatives from the Ministry of Health and Youth Lead Mongolia. They'll discuss collaborative strategies to enhance healthcare access and strengthen Mongolia's civil society work. The forum aims to align civil society efforts with the World Health Organization's goal of ending TB by 2030, representing a major step in Mongolia's ongoing battle to eradicate the disease.
You're watching News Mongolia. Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Now let's shift our focus to international news from our partner agencies. Georgia's pro-Western opposition disputed the results of the parliamentary election after officials declared Sunday the ruling party led the crucial vote that could decide whether the country remains on the path to joining the European Union or comes under Russian sway.
The Central Election Commission said Georgian Dream won 54.8% of Saturday's vote with almost 100% of ballots counted. Following a divisive pre-election campaign, initial figures suggested turnout is the highest since the ruling party was first elected in 2012.
We are furious with what the Central Election Commission has there to present. The results that were announced doesn't reflect the will of the Georgian people. These figures obtained as a result of the elections held against the background of widespread intimidation, fraud, and bribery contradict the historical and current choices of the Georgian people.
Georgian electoral observers, who stationed thousands across the country to monitor the vote, reported multiple violations and said the results do not correspond to the will of the Georgian people.
I think, first of all, the most important question is whether or not these elections will be recognized by international community. I think that will really determine what would future look like for Georgia and for Georgians. I think if things go back to relatively normal, we still should not expect the old days to come back in a way, because at this point the relations between Georgia and its allies, the Western partners, with the EU, with the United States, which is Georgia's strategic partner, is at the lowest point. So I would expect that these relationships would even get more complicated, because there are clear indicators that some of the massive violations have already happened and took place during these elections.
Some Georgians complained of intimidation and being pressured to vote for the governing party.
I'm in shock and don't think it reflects the reality of the country. The distribution of votes presented an unimaginable majority for Georgian Dream in the regions, and the opposition majority in the big cities doesn't correspond to reality. I believe it should be investigated very seriously if the investigation is possible in this country. I think without help from the West, the future of this country is lost. I think it doesn't correspond to reality. It's not true because the reality is different and everyone can see this. The results that were published are just lies and rigged.
The pre-election campaign in the South Caucasus nation of 3.7 million people, which borders Russia, was dominated by foreign policy and marked by a bitter fight for votes and allegations of a smear campaign.
According to exit polls by Japanese broadcaster NHK, Ishiba's Liberal Democratic Party is certain to lose the majority in the 465-seat House, the more powerful of Japan's two-chamber parliament.
Japan's main opposition leader said his party had achieved its goal as the ruling party looked set to lose its majority in Sunday's parliamentary elections. Yoshihiko Noda's centrist Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan is expected to make significant gains.
I think we can say we achieved our goal since we aimed for the Liberal Democratic Party to lose the majority in the 465-seat House ahead of this election, and that is a great achievement. However, the total numbers are not out yet, and there might be some additional votes. Once the final results are out, I would like to call an executive committee in the morning and decide on what to do next.
Exit polls suggest a huge increase to as many as 191 seats from 98. Noda, who briefly served as Prime Minister during the Liberal Democratic Party's 2009-2012 descent from power, held a news conference past midnight and told the media that his party was able to achieve their goal. A total of 1,344 candidates, including a record 314 women, are running for office. Early results are expected within hours.
Now let's take a look at global current affairs.
An Israeli military helicopter was seen over southern Lebanon Sunday as smoke plumes dotted the border where Israel launched a ground invasion earlier this month, after nearly a year of almost daily exchange of fire between Hezbollah and Israel. Elsewhere, 2 Israeli strikes killed 8 people in Sidon city in southern Lebanon, with 25 wounded, according to Lebanon's health ministry. One strike hit a residential building, according to footage taken by the Associated Press reporter. The Israeli military said 4 soldiers, including one from the military rabbinate, were killed in fighting in southern Lebanon without providing details. It said 5 other personnel were severely wounded. An explosive drone and a projectile fired from Lebanon wounded 5 people in Israel, authorities said.
Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Goodbye.